Hello and welcome to United Report. This is your home for all the latest Manchester United news, match updates, transfer stories, and in-depth analysis. Stay connected and never miss a moment. Subscribe now to stay ahead with everything happening at Old Trafford. When Manchester United travels to Everton in the Premier League on Saturday, they could benefit from a fortunate omen. The Reds will take on the Toffees at lunchtime this weekend as they kick off the Premier League weekend on Merseyside. This kick-off time is not one that often crops up on the United fixture list, but when it does, they have a good record in those games. During the last 9 matches played in the Premier League at 12:30, United have been victorious on 7 occasions. This includes a victory over Saturday's opponents Everton and local rivals Manchester City. United will hope that their recent success at lunchtime will inspire a change of fortunes for them. After Sunday's 1-0 defeat at Tottenham Hotspur, the Reds have dropped to the lowly position of 15th, just 12 points above the relegation zone. Alarmingly, their current points tally of 29 would only be enough to save them in 2 of the last 10 Premier League campaigns. On average during this time period, clubs have needed to reach 35 points to avoid relegation to the Championship. Ruben Amorim's side are not favourites to be relegated at this stage, but there is a concern regarding where the next victory will come from. United's options in attack are limited following the injury to Ahmad, with both Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee struggling for goals too. United last tasted victory in the Premier League at the end of January after Lisandro Martinez's brilliant strike. The Argentine defender will be out for a significant period of time after suffering an injury during the clash with Crystal Palace earlier this month. Manchester United winger Alejandro Garnacho has taken the unconventional decision to send his support to rival Erling Haaland after Manchester City were knocked out of the Champions League on Wednesday night. The Norwegians scored in the first leg for the Blues last week as City collapsed to a desperate 3-2 defeat to Real Madrid at the Etihad Stadium. In the reverse leg this week, Pep Guardiola chose to name Haaland among the substitutes as City crashed out of Europe at the playoffs. Kylian Mbappe's hat-trick at the Bernabeu pushed Carlo Ancelotti's side out of sight, with Nico Gonzalez's consolation not enough to rescue City. Haaland had to watch all this from the sidelines, but while he was unable to impact the result on Wednesday, he did send a defiant message to his followers on Instagram. He wrote, "We remain as one. Sometimes you have to experience this in life and learn from it. You can't always win. We'll rise again together." While the message was aimed at the City fan base in particular, Garnacho decided to like the post in a strange show of support. The rivalry between City and United needs no explanation, and while a lot of players from both sides socialise with one another in Manchester, few openly advertise their friendship on social media. Garnacho's social media use has been criticised previously after it was reported last year that he had liked critical posts about former manager Erik Ten Hag on X. Earlier this year, the Argentine deleted his X profile but remains active on Instagram, mainly posting about his family life in England. City and United will face each other again before the end of the season, when Haaland's men travel to Old Trafford on April 5th. Sir Jim Ratcliffe endured a shocking interaction with Manchester United's women's captain Katie Zelam as he asked her what her role was at the club. The Ineos chief has been at the helm for a year, but copped huge criticism for some unpopular decisions off the pitch and continued failings on it. One criticism thrown at Ratcliffe has been a lack of care for the female section of the club. The billionaire has taken on the club's football operations and during a tour of Carrington came across the women's captain, who has spent 15 years on the red side of Manchester across 2 separate spells. However, the Telegraph reports that Ratcliffe asked Zelam what she did at the club despite her role as the team's skipper. The 29-year-old was named United captain ahead of the 2019-20 campaign and led her side to glory in the 2023-24 Women's FA Cup, which was the first major trophy in the team's history. Zelam has also earned 12 international caps for England. She was also named the Women's Player of the Year in 2019. In this season's Women's Super League, United are sat second, trailing Chelsea by 7 points. Ian Wright, who has been a big advocate of the women's game and criticised Ratcliffe in the past for treating the women's side as an afterthought, with his focus solely on making the men's side competitive again. He said on women's football podcast Crossways, "When you hear murmurings of Man United saying, once we sort out the men's, we're going to focus on the women's, when is that going to be? You look at the men's and how far they are off it at the minute. When are they actually going to take notice of the women's? I genuinely believe, especially with how Manchester United women are playing, they do not care. They genuinely do not care enough." Ratcliffe has not yet had the desired affect in Manchester, with the team going backwards since his arrival. He's continued to cut costs and source new revenue streams in an effort to help the Red Devils become a success again, but he's already sacked Erik Ten Hag and spent big money on summer signings who are yet to meet expectations. Ruben Amorim is now the man in charge, but has a horrendous record, with United poised to post their worst ever Premier League season. Former Manchester United defender Phil Jones reckons the club has a supremely talented crop of young players capable of returning the team to the top, including a striker who could step up to solve Ruben Amorim's goal-scoring woes. Jones, who has worked in a coaching role at United's academy in Carrington since retiring prematurely, is tipping some of the unfamiliar names that appeared on the bench for the first team's latest defeat to Tottenham last weekend to become household names. And chief among them is young Danish centre-forward Chido Obi Martin, who emerged off the bench for his debut in North London. Obi Martin, 17, joined United from Arsenal in October because he felt there was a clearer path to first-team action on top of a better financial deal on offer. Speaking to Sam Allardyce on the No Tippy Tappy Football podcast, Jones said, "Working in and around the academy and helping those young players develop, United have some really good and talented young players coming through. The squad had a lot of injuries against Tottenham, and the bench was full of kids, but there were some talented players on that bench. People might not know a lot about them now, but they certainly will in the next few years. I think you look at Kobbie Mainoo, top player. You look at Chido, who we've just signed from Arsenal, who's an animal. You look at Ahmad, who had a couple of really good loans. And I remember watching him winning it against Liverpool in extra time last season. And I had said at that time he'd play a huge part in the next season. I played with Ahmad for a year or two, and you could see then that the quality he had was really good and really strong. As I said, there's a great crop of young players ready to be given the chance, and integrated into the team, United sit an astonishing 15th in the Premier League table, with both Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee struggling up front for a team that has collectively scored just 28 times in 25 games. Amorim takes his side to Goodison Park for the final time this weekend to face former United boss David Moyes. Ollie Watkins has backed Marcus Rashford to start firing for Aston Villa once he has a few more games under his belt. Rashford has joined Villa on loan until the end of the season from Manchester United in a bid to resurrect his career. After being frozen out by Ruben Amorim, he has found a new home at Villa, where he has made 3 appearances so far. The 27-year-old forward made his first start for Unai Emery's side in the 2-2 draw against Liverpool on Wednesday night as a reward for his telling contribution in the 1-1 draw with Ipswich on the weekend. He showed glimpses of his talent and nearly opened his Villa account when Alisson flew off his line, only for Ibrahima Konate to head clear Rashford's effort. It was goals from Yuri Tielemans and Watkins which earned a new-look Villa side a creditable point against the Premier League leaders. Rashford featured alongside fellow January signings Marco Asensio, Doniel Malen, Andres Garcia and Axel Disasi, and Watkins is confident they will help Villa pick up a win soon after 5 league games without one. It is nice playing with quality players, and I am sure in the future games I will get more opportunities, he told TNT Sports. They haven't had that long to show what they can do, and they are still finding their feet. When they get a few games under their belt, I'm sure it will flow and connect together nicely. Emery is a huge fan of Rashford and was the driving force behind his capture in January. The Villa manager paid tribute to Liverpool star Mohamed Salah before the match and hinted that Rashford is capable of having a similar impact for his team. Discussing Rashford alongside on-loan Paris Saint-Germain midfielder Asensio, Emery said, "They are in an individual process of getting fit. Tactically, we're changing with them, and we have to practice with them in training sessions as well as practicing while they are playing in matches. We did that in 2 matches with Asensio and Marcus and with Axel Disasi in the last match. We are working every day, and we are having some meetings trying to show them it. Now they are getting better and understanding more, and they are closer to playing in the starting 11. Rashford returned 7 goals and 3 assists in all competitions for United before making the move to Villa Park. He jumped ship after making it clear that he was ready for a new challenge, an admission that saw him removed from the United first team squad by AMORIM for nearly 2 months. Manchester United have been told former star Paul Pogba could aid Ruben Amorim's bid to salvage the Red Devils' season. Former United forward Louis Saha has revealed he would take Pogba back at Old Trafford in a heartbeat as the Frenchman prepares to make his return to football. The 31-year-old was allowed to begin training in January following his doping ban and can return to playing in March. Pogba received an 18-month ban after testing positive for non-endogenous testosterone in September 2023, and in November 2024, the midfielder parted ways with Juventus via mutual consent. That, according to Saha, leaves United with an opportunity they can take advantage of as they deal with a number of injuries. The former Fulham, Everton and Newcastle striker reckons a move could be mutually beneficial and that Pogba, in search of rejuvenating his career, could offer quality, confidence, leadership and a guarantee for United head coach AMORIM as his side languishes in the Premier League. Yes, I would take Paul Pogba back at Manchester United in a heartbeat, Pogba told best betting sites. It's not only because of the squad that we have now with injuries and all that, but for all the elements that he brings as a player. We need guarantees, we need quality, we need confidence, we need leadership, and this guy now has an opportunity to show how much he wants it. Pogba can show he has the ability to be one of the best in the league in this position, especially with the motivation and the focus that he has to understand where he can improve and what parts of his game he needs to adapt. Pogba has to focus on himself and think, all those things that I've done in the past, I should not do anymore. It's an opportunity to sign someone who is highly motivated. He's going to obviously still have huge confidence about his ability. I'm sure that when he looks at this midfield at United, he has a different type of vibe in his game. So definitely it's an easy fit. I think that he will communicate with the manager. He would be humble after the situation. He's been injured. He's been banned. I'm sure Pogba wants the visibility. He wants to go back to a French team as soon as possible, so he just needs to pick the right project. For him to get back into the national team, he needs to show that he can still do it at the top level. United would be signing a player that is completely dedicated and focused on achieving his goals, because he's been out of the game for so long. I'm sure that the most important thing for Pogba would be to show AMORIM and the Manchester United fans that he is still one of the best players in the world. He will want to show people how good he was and how good it can still be. I think it's a nice opportunity for the club and the player.